And now I'd like to welcome everybody to our regular monthly meeting of our City Council of May the 13th, 2019. To my far right is our City Clerk, Jason Prévost, Councillors David Torgman, Oren Sabag, Mike Cohn, Ruth Kovac, your Mayor Mitchell Brownstein, Councillor Dita Burku, Councillor Stephen Erdely, Councillor Sidney Benizri, Councillor Mitch Kajowski, the Associate City Manager Nadia DeFuria, and the Co-City Manager Jonathan Schechter. So as I had mentioned previously, we're going to start off with our VE ceremony. We're going to have some comments by Alan Levine, former City Councillor, who will be speaking after the videos. There'll be two videos, both appropriate to VE Day. The official ending of the fighting in Europe in the Second World War was celebrated on May the 8th, 1945, after Germany's unconditional surrender. Across Canada, the UK, the US, France, Russia, and the other Allied countries, people celebrated. While the war in the Pacific would go on for another 3 months, the victory over the Nazis was a turning point in history. It ended the Holocaust. It freed countries. It led to the last 70-plus years of peace that we've enjoyed in Canada. And now I'm going to ask our communications director, who makes excellent videos, to show two videos. One is with 5 Holocaust survivors from our community, and the second is of former city councillor Isidore Goldberg, who served in the Second World War. I want to thank you all for having me here today. It's a big honor for me to meet all of you and to know Côte Saint-Luc residents, Hampstead residents are enjoying in our city together 3 times a week playing cards, 4 times a week playing cards.
And she's the hostess 4 times.
And you're the hostess, and you just had your 100th birthday, so happy birthday. Many more.
Thank you. You take the effort to even read on the story about our life.
You're all survivors of the Holocaust, and you all have your own story. Everybody has their own story. And like I said, every year for Yom HaShoah in Côte Saint-Luc, we like to hear a story of somebody from Côte Saint-Luc.
People, first of all, no air, nothing, start to bang the door. Then they came in and hitting us. When I was in Auschwitz, they selected Mengele. Take us in a room, shave us everywhere, the guys.
So who from your family survived in Auschwitz?
Nobody. So we were filling bombs with a powder. It was yellow like orange. It was poison. I was lucky because most of the people became free in May. We became free in 31st of March by the Americans with my 4 aunts, you know, so I was lucky. I was deported from, then it was Hungary, the part of Transylvania where I was born. I was there in 1945, sent to Auschwitz. And then it was right away at night, it was pitch dark. They didn't see exactly what age they are, because it was very dark. And I supposed to go with my mother and my sister. They went to the right and we went to the left. Suddenly, I realized it, and I'm on the front of the crematorium, which I didn't know what it is. So they took us into the crematorium, 5 people in 1 row. I was the only one still dressed up the way I came. The guys saw that I'm not undressed, came there and told me in Yiddish, Why don't you undress? You see everybody is naked. So I didn't know what to say. I told them, I want to know where my clothes were going to go. I don't want to wear nobody else's clothes. I said, I'll think it over. Give me a chance to think it over. So he left. I looked in the back, and the crematoire had two huge big doors. I looked constantly in the back, and I saw still the door is open. I ran out. And I got caught from a SS guy, a German guy in uniform. Was glaubst du? What do you think? Where are you going? I said, ich gehe nach meiner Schwester. I go to my sister. Oh, how old are you? I said, 19. He said, oh, 19, and you speak very good German. You know, because you speak German, I will let you go. I started to run. I look constantly back, and suddenly I see him, I still saw him, and he made like that. You are running the wrong way. Like that you run. I listened to him because I didn't have no other choice. I ran opposite direction, and I ran like a crazy madman, and I found my sister and my mother. That young guy, who wasn't more than 20 or 22 years old, gave me 70 extra years to live.
I had a brother, 3 years older like me, and I took him from Budapest to Germany on the road with the legs to go. And on the road, halfway, my brother was 23 years old. He said, I don't go nowhere. He sat down, I sat down, and that's it. And the guy said to him, are you crazy? You know when you sit down, they'll kill you. And he said, I know. He sat down and they killed him.
My story is a little bit different from the others because I am from Budapest. And from Budapest, they did not take really the Jews, but those that were caught. So I had a sister who was 20 years older than I was. She had a child, and with the child and myself, she wanted to go to the country. On the train, a Hungarian man suspected that we were Jews, and we were caught. So I got into Auschwitz, and from Auschwitz, the end of October, I went to a city which was very close to the Czech border. The factory was an aeroplane factory, and they took us into the factory, and I got to a German couple, and they said, oh, you are a child, you cannot work, sit down.
I guess you were
I was 14.
14, okay.
Okay, of course no hair, you know, I looked very young. And the war was over May the 8th, and we were liberated May the 9th. I went to Budapest, and I found my family at home.
It's so nice that you have your friends come here 4 times a week to play cards.
4
Yeah,
times a week we play card.
It's so
But
nice.
yes, I love it. You know, here is very small community
Beautiful.
and everything nice here. It's very good.
She just celebrated her 100th birthday, 100th birthday, happy, and many more. In good health. Good health.
Thank you so much.
Here I'm happy. We all live around here. We see each other. So we take a taxi, we share. And I love to live here. Everything is for me here.
And why do you play? You play cards 4 times a week?
4 times a week. We are all between 93 and 95, and she's 100. And I am the only one. I know her 79 years.
Hedy, it so happens I met her in Austria, and I took one of the boats, and that boat returned and brought them to Canada. So I have been friends with her since then.
I like Côte Saint-Luc, and I like my daughter worked for 38 years, social worker and CLSC. So she was very close here to me, that's why I moved in. And whenever I need some help or something, I like the mall, I like my friends. Thanks God for that.
Be well for many more years, play
I
cards and
wish
enjoy.
you a very, very good life. And your family too. And you too.
Thank you. Thank you so
Don't
much.
forget it.
Before we show the next video, I just want to say that, that I want to thank all the veterans that are here today. When you see those people, that was the reason why the war ended in 1945, was because you guys participated in the war, enlisted in the war, made a difference, and then you see the beautiful lives that have followed and the positive spirit that those 5 ladies have over the last 70 plus years. So now we're going to show a short video of former City Councillor Isidore Goldberg, who served in the Second World War. So here we are today with former City Councillor Isidore Goldberg, who served his country not only as an elected official, but also as a member of the armed forces in the Second World War.
Well, I enlisted because what was going on in Europe when Germany invaded all these other countries. And at that time, I was about 16 years of age. I was too young to enlist. In our street, which I lived, Esplanade, half of the streets were in the services. And most of them were volunteers. Some of them were drafted, but most of them were volunteers. My brother had joined in 1939 at the beginning of the war, and I said went overseas. And then my other brother, Saul, also joined on his own. And myself, we were all volunteers. We did not have to be drafted. I couldn't get into the regular army till 18 years and 8 months. That was the age before you could enroll. Prior to that, I served in the reserve, and that was on Côte Saint-Luc, right across the road of the cemetery. So when I came up, I should say 18 years and 8 months, I think it was, I decided to enroll in the regular army. My parents, who came from Europe, my father came here in 1903, raised 6 boys and 2 girls. And out of these 6 boys, 3 of us served as volunteers overseas. My job was admission administration work, admission and in the hospital, with the general hospital, with 3 different hospitals outside of London. I was there till the end of the war, and stayed a year after the war. Then my parents would say, why don't you come home, and this and that, and I was getting used to the life, and I thought I'd end up playing hockey there, and I met a lot of people I knew there. But then I decided, well, I got fed up, and I said, well, put me on the next draft. On VE Day, we gather to pay our respects to those who served in the Allied armies, men and women, volunteers, who needlessly gave their lives so that we can live in liberty and to have peace in future years.
We'll have the lights. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to invite former city councillor Alan J. Levine, who's president of the Frederick Quiche branch. 97.
The only Quiche branch in Canada. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, city councillors, and of course Harry Blank. I have to tell you that he is our senior member of Branch 97, and at 97, he is still practicing law. He litigates, goes before the court, and he's chasing down war criminals, and he still actively participates. How do you like that for a guy in our branch? So not only do I have to recognize the city council, but I tell you, I have to recognize the VCOPs. You know, every year we run a poppy campaign, and without the VCOPs, the poppy campaign would not have been anything, because we really only have a few guys who are left, most average around 96 years old. Thanks to the VCOPs, we gave out 18,000 poppies last year and this year. 18,000 poppies in a population of approximately 32,000. That is amazing. I don't mention the money, over $50,000 that we give to important charities, but I will tell you that it's a pleasure working with these fellows who love it because they know the service that they give. I have to also compliment the mayor because, you know, I've been at many VE Day ceremonies where the Holocaust is not even mentioned. But, you know, the mayor took it upon himself to produce that video. And, you know, he and many of you were over at the TBDJ during the Shoah presentation, which occurs every year. And, you know, they mentioned 6 million Jews, but for me, it's not the 6 million. It's a third of all my people. It's a tenth of all the people in the forces and civilians who were killed in the Second World War. 1/10. This is not to marginalize other groups who the Nazis picked on, but it was a tenth. Back here in Montreal, Arcan and his boys, who were Nazis and Nazi sympathizers, were keeping lists of where the Jews lived in Quebec. If it weren't for people who served in the forces, like my father, my late father-in-law, both whose wives gave birth while they were overseas, the stress women have when their husband goes on a trip for a week because of work or something, can you imagine giving birth to children? Both my late sister-in-law and my wife, they were born while the fathers were overseas. So you can imagine the stress involved. These are the people who gave their sacrifice. Why I bring this up? Because when I say a third of all my people, with our cons record and the records we have of the Nazis, it could have been us all. It really could have. Yes, I agree, it was, you know, we're not celebrating officially, so I'll bring it up right here, D-Day, where the United Forces of America and Britain and Canada fought on one side. And I have to say, I know they put machine guns to their backs to force them, but the Russians really helped us win as well. It took a united force. Hitler and the Nazis crawled over Europe in months. In months. They could have taken the world, but for the brave soldiers who sacrificed, most of us who volunteered. You know, at D-Day, it was Juno Beach. They were all Canadians just about there, and they were in the front lines. And my father was in the EP, and he was about the only survivor in the EP. They used Canadians as the experiment, and of course it was a necessary experiment because, you know, D-Day came and they learned lessons from that. Nothing was done for nothing. But we must remember, today, It's creeping all over Europe. It's creeping in our backyards. Racism has renewed itself. We must be ever vigilant. The mean, the nasty, the racists, they're waiting for weakness, and they will creep in, and it doesn't take them long. We have to stay united. You must remember, you must teach these lessons to the people, that we must be ever vigilant. And we must thank our veterans who sacrificed so much that we're alive today, that we have our freedom today. Thank you, guys.
Picture with the counselors, please, and you guys. Good to see you. Good.
Thank you. Can I just, I want to thank Al for expressing himself and what they led us here. And I also want to thank the city of Côte Saint-Luc and the members of council who remember those that are not with us today and keep on the years to come to remember that we have people caring for those that are gone. And I thank you very much. And the new council members who do a very good job, I understand, and keep up the good work. And my friend here from the hasn't passed over the school board. I still, 94 years of age, I still remember.
Wow. Come, Isidore.
Well, thank you very much for that, and a very special thank you to Communications Director Darryl Levine. He's a gem, and we really appreciate his great work. And now we'll move to question period. The first question is Ian Kopnick.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I was curious if there was an update on the Leger polling of my neighborhood with respect to the tempos and when we're going to have results.
The final results just came in, but they haven't gone to council yet. And we got a good poll, a good-sized poll, and we will be sharing the results with the community. But I haven't presented it even to the councillors yet, so I really can't speak about it. It's done, and we will act according to the results and present them, but we won't take any action or make any change of any sort without providing all the results to the public first. And I don't know if there'll be any change whatsoever even after we provide those results because, council's going to look at the results.
Right, but is it a decision that council is going to be taking simply based on the numbers of the poll, or is there going to be any further consultation?
I think the poll was very, very detailed, and we got a large enough sample for council to have a clear understanding of what the community feels in those districts. What they decide to do with that will be up to them.
Okay, so I guess my follow-up question is that I understand that, that there was desire on the part of council not to go through an expensive and divisive referendum campaign, which would have been the next step with respect to any district that voted against the tempos. And I've expressed this to you by email. I can't help as a resident but get the feeling that through this polling process that residents are being asked, if not a little bit pressured, to try to change their minds. Nobody's going to other districts where nobody really, yes, people didn't bother.
Mr. Kopnick, I saw the results. I could promise you, you're going to be fine with them. They're very fair, they're very clear. They're a large poll. Nobody was pressured. The question was very clear, and the answers are very clear. So you're allowed 3 minutes. You've answered your question. Wait for the responses. It's not, maybe it will be a surprise, maybe it won't, but I think we got a very good poll and very clear results that, You'll be fine with them. No one for or against is going to say, wow, this was an unfair result.
No, it's not a question
No,
of unfair
because-
result.
no,
It's the
no,
fact, it's
anyway,
the fact that it's selective polling.
Yeah.
That you're polling a particular neighborhood without polling any other neighborhood. If you polled other neighborhoods that may have voted for the tempos, you may find the majority of people are against the tempos. So that's my objection to the process, that you're going after a neighborhood that voted against the tempo because perhaps council is for them, and I appreciate that.
It would have been no different if we went to referendum, which is the law would have allowed us to go to referendum in those zones. It would have been no different, and we could have just gone to referendum in those zones. And that's it. You had your two questions.
Fair enough.
And I will now call Connie Kirsch so she can continue. That's Ian's wife.
Hi, this is my first time coming, my first attendance to anything like this, but I recently applied for a permit to do some work in my house, and I have never done this before, and I got back the information that I would be charged according to the price of the work, not the labor. The labor was included, and the price was dependent on the materials that I chose. So I thought that was incredibly unfair because if I chose to put a $1,000 door in my house, I was charged X number of dollars. If I chose to put a $5,000 door, I was charged more. The labor is exactly the same. So why am I penalized because I chose a more expensive window or a door?
Right, do you want to answer that? That's a bylaw. It's a bylaw question. It's been like that for years.
I know you asked me the question, and Jeff Davey from our department sent you the answer with the table. And the table is such that it's a fixed percentage of the cost of the work. So
But that's
the cost,
unfair.
well,
It's unfair. It's not fair. Why, you didn't answer my question.
No,
Why am I
the
charged
logic-
more? Because I picked gray color windows and my neighbor picked white.
the logic of the permit, of the prorated cost of the permit is based on the cost of the work. So if you're building a $20,000 deck, it's one price. If you're building a $50,000 deck, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. The differential is really minor, though. I mean,
But it's
I know how much you paid and how much you would have paid had it been a few $1,000s less was really.
I want to clarify.
It's just a few dollars.
Okay, but I
It's
do want to,
not a
I want to
few
clarify
dollars.
question period. Question period is one question, followed by one answer and a supplementary question.
Okay, but
It's not a discussion back and forth.
We can't just, but just to add, the logic of it, I mean, because I didn't, this is not a bylaw from yesterday. I mean, it's been in the books for a long time. But I presume the logic of it is that you're not just paying for the labor, you're paying for a renovation. And there is only one objective way of determining that cost, and that's the cost of the project. Otherwise, we would have to apply a subjective rule. So in order to be objective, you give us the cost of the project, and we issue you the cost of the permit.
Okay,
And
well,
it's,
I
and
don't
the
agree.
differential is not great. I mean, had you,
Yes,
Anyway, wait,
but
it's
if
it's
you're-
not a back and forth. If you want more information about the bylaw, she answered the question the best she could, but if you want more information about the bylaw, well, you can come to our permit department. I'll even sit with you. We can go over the bylaw in detail, but here we don't go back and forth. You ask a question, you get the answer. So yeah, to anybody else who wants to ask questions, you ask one question, I answer, supplementary question, I answer. Malka Labo.
Okay, I'm not exactly prepared, but I live on Edgemore, corner Guelph. Several years ago, I went to the city telling them that there should be, going east onto, from Guelph, going east to where, past Orachaim or west to Parkhaven, there has to be some kind of barrier or hump because people do not stop on the crosswalks. So I was told, get a petition from your neighbors. Everybody signed it, brought it back to City Hall. I think you were mayor at the time. It was about 5 years ago. Nothing happened. People do not stop. There's a very large Sephardic community now that has moved onto my street. I'm right across from Ziggelbaum Park. There are never any police watching because if they were, your city would be making a lot of money. They do not stop. So I understand, so my answer was, the stop sign at the corner of Einstein, corner Guelph, would be too close to put a stop sign on the corner of Edgemore, corner Guelph. So at that point I said, well, what if you have a flashing with, you know, like a person walking and flashing back and forth, or put a speed bump? Nothing happened after that. It's still going on. I'm there over 20 years. Does something have to happen for the city to do something about this?
Okay. So in terms of that, I want for the minutes to put like a follow-up for the traffic committee to study that issue again. Oh, and perhaps they already have. Councillor Torchman is the chair of the traffic committee. And go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We actually do have a plan to install flashing crosswalk signage at that intersection, that specific unprotected crosswalk.
When?
I believe, I'm not sure if it's ordered, but it should be sometime soon.
Sometime soon.
So no, it's been,
6
no, but that's
years
very
ago,
good
I
news.
brought it to
Miss
the
Miss
attention of
Miss
the committee.
Labau, that is very good news. That means that it's gone through the traffic committee, it's been approved, and it's going to happen. So something's happening. Maybe it's from your request from 5 years ago, or it's just because we have a great
Don't
council
even
now,
say that.
and we're on top of everything. But it's happening, so that's great news. Thank you, Councillor Torchman. The next is Chris Mannett.
Good evening. I just have a question regarding my street. I live on Merton Street between Glencrest and Lyndale. And over the winter, we had several interventions related to the pipes being bursting under our street. There was at least half a dozen incidences on our street, 4 of which were in front of my house. Each of the times that the work was done, and very promptly, I must say, we were very appreciative of that. Only the backfilling was done. There was no compacting done. And if we were having this conversation on Friday, nothing's been done about the giant mound of asphalt in front of my house. This morning that changed. They came and they dug up just the top layer of asphalt and did not compact, and they've now paved over it. My concern is, I don't believe there's a bigger plan for the street itself. Both my neighbor and I made the same remark, in that prior to this winter, the water used to collect on his side of the street and now collects on my side of the street.
We saw pictures just today. Councillor Burke was very on top of it, and she sent pictures to me and to the engineering department, and there's definitely some type of plan of action that needs to take place. The director of engineering is right there listening and saw those pictures today, as I did.
Great.
And there is the water accumulation. We're aware. We have to fix it.
Right, and the reason I'm mentioning it is just because my concern, as I expressed to Councillor Burke a few days ago, was that perhaps there's something bigger going on, and it's not just the grading, maybe it's the street itself. I really hope it's not. The work certainly looks great from today, but my fear is that paving is going to start collapsing as well, because it was never compacted properly. So time will tell, and I see they've cut lines in the street to do further down the street as well. I hope there's a bigger plan for maybe a regrading or resurfacing of the whole street as opposed to the patchwork that's been done.
We're definitely working on the issue.
Okay,
Thank you. Karen Corman.
Hi, Kaufman, by the way, Karen Kaufman. Yeah, I just wanted to ask with what we were talking about before with the increase in terrorism and anti-Semitism and Bill 21, an increase in the population in Côte Saint-Luc, increase of cars in Côte Saint-Luc, we need a way out of here. I said, for example, for myself, I was in an ambulance one day, and the only reason I survived was because there was no traffic. If I don't get there within an hour, I'm dead. I have a very bad allergy, and I don't even know what it's to. So we need a way out of here. Cavendish is not a solution. Cavendish will become the Carrier Expressway. Kildare is a solution. And the only way we're going to get out of here is if we open up Kildare, traffic in the morning, you have exits, both lanes out, coming back during traffic, both lanes in, and it'll save our life one day, because one day, if you ever want to kill a bunch of Jews, you go to Côte Saint-Luc and you have a little train wreck, and we'll never get out of here. So it's serious. I really feel trapped, and I'm sure a lot of other people feel trapped, and it's for our safety and everyone else's, including the elderly who have to get to a hospital by ambulance, We need a way out.
Okay.
My,
Well,
my son, just one more thing. My son twice was stuck in traffic during a snowstorm for an hour and a half. He got to Hampstead. It took an hour and a half from Cavendish. And he turned around and came back. That's dangerous, you know, and I think we've been wasting time on Cavendish. Kildare is our way out of here.
Well, go back in history. The Kildare option came off the table when we got back north of Hampstead. There was a deal way back when for Kildare to be extended, and then the City of Montreal reneged on it, and as a result, they had to give us back McDonald and the part that we now call, some people call it north of Hampstead, but really it's Côte Saint-Luc. It's near to Carey Square.
Right.
So we're not opposed to Kildare extension, but it's not on the table right now. And all of these plans, any extension requires underpasses because we're surrounded by yards. So the reality is that Cavendish is moving forward in some form or another because of the Hippodrome project and the Royal Mount project. I'd say that that's really the strong reason why there's such there's such a push now by not Côte Saint-Luc as much as by, Saint Laurent and Montreal to get Cavendish done. So once
Like
the others
Cavendish,
want, I know.
We'll turn into the Carrick Expressway. It'll bring in tons of pollution.
It's going to bring in.
Disaster. Every person in Saint Laurent is going to cut
Okay, is that your second question? Because you're allowed 2 questions
Okay,
and you need
that's
to
my second
respond, but
question. Sure.
I'm not finished responding.
Sure.
So, 1 second. So our plan, and we have to be very careful with Cavendish, is to build the type of Cavendish that's not going to be an expressway. We don't want it to be many lanes and a big highway, and we also would like to have public transit on it. We're pushing for either a tramway, electric tram, some type of other public transit. In terms of emergencies, like emergency situations, we have 4 exits out. So right now, we have agreements with the rail yards. Anytime there's an emergency, they know it's an emergency, they need to get out, they open the 4 exits to let us out.
Unless
The
it's a
future,
train problem.
in terms of having many more exits, there will be a time. There will be a time in the future, I can't predict when, because you speak to CP Rail all the time, and they're building the site in Vaudreuil, Les Cèdres. There will be a time, I don't know if it will be in my lifetime, but there will be a time when there will be no rail yards in Côte Saint-Luc. They will move out. It makes no sense for them to stay here forever because as all the development comes around the yards, their land becomes more and more valuable and they can go to a cheaper place to have their yards. So we will one day have a different type of Côte Saint-Luc, but in the meantime, it looks like we're getting Cavendish and we have to build it the best way we can. That's what we're getting for now. Cavendish. The technical people are working on it, the committees are active on it. That's
This
what we're
is
getting
like
for
in-
now. It's happening now. And they have dates and predictions of time when they're going to start to build, finish build, 2023, starting this section, finished by 2026. It's happening, whether we want it or not, they want it, it's happening.
But to
That's
get
what we're
to-
getting.
Yeah, to get to a hospital, there's like.
Well, it's going to help. We're going to try to make it the best road we can.
Don't get sick when
Yeah. Thank you. Former City Councilor Isidore Goldberg, you had a question?
Yes, thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time. I live at 5150 McDonald Avenue. I've been there about 48 years. Unfortunately, I had to have surgery a couple of years ago, and I'm still wobbling around with this here, holding on to something. What I'd like the council to do is that to legislate, like people myself, there's about 10 of us that use the walker, to put in a ramp. It's not an expensive thing. The government will pay some of this here. I've been asking them for 2 years now to put in a ramp, which is hard to lift up and get into a heavy door. So I would like to see council push my
Your landlord.
my owner of my building. And the other thing is that you legislate no smoking at any time in high-rise buildings, because that's a danger. As you know, the fire department's reports happen. The fires come from people smoking. And if the city of Côte Saint-Luc could do something about stopping this here and legislate a law.
Okay, well, the council has heard your request. We'll take it under advisement.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for hosting us.
Thank you very much. Okay, so if there's no further question, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes. Councillor Kovac?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion? That is the minutes of
The special meeting of April the 8th and
special meeting of April the 8th, 2019, and the minutes of the regular meeting of April the 8th, 2019.
And the special meeting of May the 6th, 2019. Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And any new business arising from the minutes? Departmental reports. Councillor Kovac.
So moved, Mr. Mayor, from the library all the way down to the police department for 2019.
Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion on the departmental reports? Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to tell everybody that last week we held the annual blood donor clinic, and for the second year in a row, we surpassed the numbers. Our goal was 125, and we reached 156. And this doesn't happen without an entire team of professional staff, volunteers, especially our VCOPs, who came out to volunteer, and under the leadership of a very special lady from the communications department, Regine Benon, who pulled it all together. But every single department in the city played a role in this. And so it's very important that we recognize people who not only contribute as a volunteer, but our staff who invest their time to make sure that it happens. And a shout out also to for the very first time, I've been asking for years to get a really good program going of teaching people CPR. And under Philippe Chateauvert and Jean-Marc Dubois, we actually taught 50 people CPR in a very short period of time. So kudos to them, and this is where it's not only as a volunteer, but your staff also goes that extra mile to make things happen. So very special to say thank you, and again to the VCOPs and to the other volunteers who came out that night. And when you give a unit of blood, you are giving the gift of life. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kovac. Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to say we had the renewal. Sorry, did I put my microphone on? We had the renewal of the dog licenses at the beginning of May. I want to thank Treasurer Angelo Marino for facilitating individuals who couldn't make it during office hours, and we are allowing, at least on a trial this year, e-transfer. So I did get a call, in fact, today from a new dog owner who just moved into Côte Saint-Luc, so I'll be speaking to them later. And it's a wonderful thing because people were not able to come during work hours, so hopefully that's worked out well. The Golf Classic of Côte Saint-Luc will be on July the 4th. We expect another sellout, and our honoree just left. It's Councillor Alan J. Levine, who will be our honoree this summer. So we're looking forward to a great game of golf. You can see MikeCohen.ca for details on the tournament. Stephen Erdely is my co-chair, and we hope that this year it will not rain and it will not be 125 degrees like last year as well. For the time being, I usually have a town hall in June, just for my constituents' knowledge. This year I've been doing something a little different. I've been having meet and greets in the neighborhood, and in 2 weeks, I'll be meeting with residents of Rembrandt, representatives from the different condos, and we'll be discussing traffic specifically in the area of the new stop sign on Kildare and Rembrandt, where I'm consulting. It's been there since September, and we are now reviewing its worthiness and what other measures may be taken to improve traffic. So that will be taking place, and I will be doing other meetings of such. I had another meeting on Marc Chagall with condo representatives dealing with the new Equinox. It was very successful, as well as I met with the residents and the management of the new building on the Avenue. It's been a couple of years now, but they have new management. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen. Councillor Torchman. And then Councillor Sabat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Closed. So at the library this May, for children ages 6 to 10, there's a fantastic program where there's a therapy dog that's brought in, and kids actually read to the dog. And it's an interesting way for kids to get over this fear of reading by reading to a dog. So it's not it's a nice way to introduce reading to children who have that fear of reading out loud or reading in public. So that's a fantastic program. You can find out all about our programs by pamphlet or at csllibrary.org. There's events for adults as well. Author Kim Tui is coming Vietnamese writer who has phenomenal stories to tell, and she's coming on May 14th at 7 p.m. That and amongst much more at our Côte Saint-Luc library, so I invite you to join. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Torjman. Councillor Sabag.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I do want to echo what Councillor Kovac said, and she thanked a lot of people, but I'd like to thank her because the first time I gave blood was because of you. I'm on my 4th round, and I feel great about it. So thank you very much for that, Ruth, for organizing this wonderful event every year as well. We saw more fluorescent vests there than we see here today. It was all orange at the blood donor clinic, more orange than red. Having the VCOPs there, obviously a huge benefit to the drive. I do want to talk, I don't have a monthly report. I do want to give a couple of statistics that we get from the police reports. Some cities give them out on their website. I thought maybe it'd be a good time for us to talk about some statistics for the month of April. So about 3 for the month of April, 1st of April to the 30th of April, 3 break-in and entries, and 2 thefts in cars for a total of 5 events for the month of April, compared to last year, 20 events in total. So that's great news for the month of April. Some people have been asking me as well on how things are going for the search for the director. Certainly happy to report that we've been interviewing 2nd rounds. We had 2 today, in fact, and we're getting closer to a decision, so we'll keep you posted on that as well. That's it for me.
Thank you, Councillor Sabag. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to report a few items as well. First, with regard to taxes, the 2nd installment is due on May 28th. And as a reminder to residents, if you're paying online, we recommend you try to do it so that it's a day or 2 in advance. Keep in mind that sometimes there's a processing delay, especially if your bank is not the same as the city's bank. So try to do that a few days before. Reminders are being sent out, or were sent out, I should say, on May 10th. So these reminders go out to all residents who have not submitted a post-dated check. So if you've done, let's say, a post-dated online payment, you will still get a reminder from the city, but just as long as you make sure to do your best to pay in advance, and that way, of course, residents will avoid incurring interest or penalty charges. We're going to talk, I'll be sharing a bit more over the next few weeks, but I wanted to mention that we're looking into doing a consultation process for next year's budget. Normally what we do is we announce the budget and we present it at that point, so I'm looking along with the treasurer at a consultation in the month of June, and we'll be sharing more details about it in the coming weeks.
Thank you.
One last item.
Take your time.
Last item, on the environmental side, I want to mention that on Thursday from 2 to 8, there'll be compost pickup at the Public Works yards, and tomato plants as well be given out to the first, tomato trees? Tomato plants and trees will be given out to residents. Make sure to come with a proof of residency, so either a license or a utility bill, and look forward to seeing you there on Thursday. I'll be there myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. Councillor Gajowski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to briefly talk about the tax clinic that the library held for the first time. It was my pleasure to participate in it, and I think everyone here would agree there's not much pleasure to be had in preparing taxes, which I do seasonally every March and April, but it really was a great pleasure to be preparing taxes for people who really didn't have the means to pay a professional to prepare their personal taxes. So it was a great service done by the library, very, very well organized. We learned a lot on the way, and for those of you listening, for those of you here, if you know people who who don't have the means to pay a professional to prepare their taxes, who are new immigrants to Côte Saint-Luc, let them know, because we're going to be doing it again next year. And thank you to Antonella Lally as well, who helped us organize it, who organized it single-handedly with help from library staff, obviously, and it was a great, great success. Would also like to mention that in 2 weeks' time, 2.5 weeks' time, on May 29th, we are premiering Cabaret with Côte Saint-Luc Dramatic Society. It's our musical for this year. So the show run is from May 30th to June 16th, and I think I'll let the mayor speak a little more about the gala. Yes?
Sure. On the 29th, we'll be having a gala, and our gala is in support of education about the Holocaust. We're partnering with the Holocaust Museum. As many know, the story of Cabaret takes place in the 1930s during the uprising of the Nazis, and as was discussed briefly tonight, there's a lot happening in our world today that we have to be wary of and watch out for and be vigilant about, and educating people about the horrors of the past is a very important cause. So what we will be doing is money raised at the gala will be used to bring students from various high schools and CEGEPs to see Cabaret, followed by one of these videos. It's a video about Margaret and Sam Newman, who survived the Holocaust, and Margaret Newman, who's 96 years old, will be speaking and answering questions to the students after seeing the show of Cabaret and seeing her video. And that will be taking place at special showings during the run. So if you're interested in the gala, it's $150. There's sponsorship options as well. It's a cocktail dînatoire in the council chamber with live entertainment from our past performers, a showing of Cabaret, and it will be a very enjoyable evening. Regular tickets range from $28 to 30-something, depending on, and also there's group rates.
Yeah, 28 to 35, and if you
And there's group rates.
yeah, if you can gather a group of 25 or more, we have a price for groups, and big groups of 50, we're giving tickets away for $20. So if you can get a big group together, then come
Yeah,
see
we
the
have
show.
some big groups coming. Councilor Benizri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. J'aimerais juste mentionner qu'avec le retour du beau temps, l'équipe des travaux publics s'attelle à l'entretien de nos parcs, à tout ce qui est nettoyage, planter les fleurs dans notre ville et vraiment qu'on puisse avoir une belle ville pour cet été. Et j'aimerais remercier vraiment toute l'équipe des travaux publics pour tout le travail qu'ils font. Et je sais qu'on a passé un dur hiver et on espère avoir un été ensoleillé et fleuri. Alors merci encore.
Merci, conseiller Benizri. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres discussions? Anybody else? No, we're good to go. So moved and seconded, all in favor of the departmental reports? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Item number 5, financial services. 5A, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Did I miss something?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for inviting me here today and to show them the video of my warriors. It's 9 o'clock and time for my bed.
Myself or the city treasurer. Just want to share a few of the highlights, and the mayor will share more when he reads the message in a moment. The operating surplus for the year ending December 31st, 2018 for the city of Côte Saint-Luc is $1,749,178. So if we factor in the cumulative surplus to December 31st, so we have a restricted and unrestricted portion. The unrestricted portion is approximately $4.4 million, and the restricted portion is $4.15 million. So this is money that will be used partly for the arena, partly for Kerwin Park, partly for small parks. And the unrestricted portion, part of it actually we will end up restricting a bit later this meeting when we adopt the revised version of the capital projects. And just to share, in the working fund at December 31st, we had $741,993, so almost just under $742,000. And just to mention, With regard to our long-term debt, so this is something that involves the large capital expenses that the city has done over the many years. One of our goals has been to bring down the debt, and in the last few years, we've brought it down about $10 million. So in this past year, it went from approximately $53.2 million to $52.4 million, so a drop of about $800,000 in the last year. And again, it's a trend we've tried to do over the last several years to continuously try to pay down the debt, and wherever possible to use grants or to use the surplus for capital projects to try to avoid further borrowing. And with that, I'll move on to the next item and allow the mayor to report on the highlights in his mayor's report.
Okay, so now we're on the mayor's report. You want me to mention this? You want to mention it? Go back to, okay, want to go back to the departmental reports? You didn't get to speak? You have to speak, Tita. Come on, big news she forgot to talk about.
So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tomorrow, the Infrastructure Canada is going to announce the winners of the Smart City contest. We are going to go to Ottawa. We're going to spend the day there and give our feedback on the process, on the application process, and on preparing the final proposal. And at the end of the day, after we make our presentations at around 4:30, there will be the announcement. We are one of the 2 finalists in the $10 million category. We're one of 10 finalists, in the 2 of whom will win in the $10 million category. And we're looking forward to having a following tomorrow. It's going to be live streamed. We're going to tell you where to catch it. I think it's
either infrastructure.qc.ca or, no? Infrastructure Canada Facebook page, but I think you'll provide a link on our page. If you go to côtesaintluc.org, you'll have a link to the live stream, so you can watch all the presentations and see, or at least the winner. I don't know if they're streaming the whole day?
I guess.
The presentations. So it's quite interesting. I mean, if you really want to see or hear about the 20-plus cities, because there's different size cities that get to participate. There's cities of our size from 30,000 to 250,000 in the bigger cities. You get to hear 5-minute presentations from each one of those cities before they announce the winner at 4 o'clock. And if you're on that Facebook page, just keep on pressing like, love, love, love.
So we're looking forward to it tomorrow, and we hope that we'll bring back the prize. And if we don't, well, you know, it's been a tremendous experience. We did a lot of very good and solid community engagement. We know now what the residents are interested in, and we can build on this experience going forward and continuing to provide first-class services for our residents, including our seniors and all the families that support them. So we're looking forward to that. And hopefully we will.
Hopefully we'll have $10 million more tomorrow.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now the mayor's message on the financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2018. In conformity with section 105.2.2 of the City and Towns Act, I'm pleased to present a summary of the highlights of the financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2018. The financial results in this report are a summary of the official financial statements of the City of Côte Saint-Luc, audited by Deloitte. Although this report has important information, I invite you to view the complete Ministry of Municipal Affairs financial statements posted on the city's website. Report highlights. Revenues increased by $3.3 million, or 7.7%, compared to 2017. Expenses increased by $2.9 million, or 4.37%. Financing costs, interest, and capital repayments increased by $830,000, or 1.47%. And appropriations from reserves decreased by $114,000, or 2.4%. The increase in taxation revenue was due to the significant increase of the agglomeration apportionment imposed by the City of Montreal in January 2018 that required the city to apply a 1.9% increase on most property taxes. The city posted an operating surplus of $1,749,000 for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2018, compared to $2.313 million for the year ended December 31st, 2017. The major variances that contributed to the $1.749 million surplus are the following: increase in transfer duty revenues of $1.4 million, increase in government grants of $178,000, increase in miscellaneous revenues of $207,000, decrease in administrative expenses of $266,000, decrease in recreation net expenses of $219,000, and an increase in capital reimbursement of $503,000. The city spent $9.5 million in capital investment projects. $4.7 million was financed by the Tech government grant for aqueduct and sewer sleeving projects, City Hall parking lot project, and apportionment of the Cavendish Underpass rehabilitation project. The city's long-term debt was reduced slightly to $51.3 million compared to $52.1 million at December 31st, 2017. The city borrowed $4.9 million in new debt in 2018, but reimbursed $5.7 million in capital repayments. The city chose to reduce debt service by reimbursing a loan in the amount of $503,000 that was due to be refinanced. This will generate future savings of interest cost to taxpayers. The city received an unqualified audit opinion from Deloitte regarding the official Mammoth financial statements that were deposited by the city treasurer to the council on May the 13th, 2019. The auditor's report indicates that, in all material respects, the financial results present an accurate portrait of the city's financial position as of December 31st, 2018, including the results of its activities, the change in its net financial assets, and of its net debt, and the cash flow for the fiscal year ended on that date in conformity with Canadian public sector accounting standards. And below, you'll find a statement of operations and the statement of financial position for the year December 31st, 2018, which you can refer to, which is all the numbers that explain what I just explained in words. And in conclusion, on an annual basis, City Council and City Administration focus on creating a fair, efficient, and responsible budget, and in monitoring revenues and expenses throughout the year. I'm very pleased with the financial position of the city and assure you that we will continue to do everything possible to maintain the excellent level of services and high-quality standards that residents have come to expect. Thank you. And now that I have read that, there is a resolution dealing with the manner in which we will distribute this information. And as we have decided, as we've done in years past, not everybody's on the internet, so we want to make sure everybody receives it, so it will be mailed to every household with all the details. So, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that in accordance with the law, the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby authorizes and orders the publication of the text of the Mayor's message on the financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2018 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc to be distributed to each civic address in the municipality.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Burko. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously, and it will be received at everybody's household. And now we move to item number C. Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll read the resolution first, and then I'll explain in a bit more detail. Whereas the capital investment budget 3-year plan for 2019, 2020, 2021 was adopted on December 17, 2018, whereas subsequent to the adoption of the plan, the following projects have been revised: traffic lights including Cavendish Corridor, LED street lights, Kerwin Park renovation, Arena Confederation Annex outdoor rink, Arena R22 conversion to CO2 and renovation, City Hall HVAC. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby accepts and adopts the revised capital investment budget 3-year plan for the years 2019, 2020, 2021 for a total of $36,279,460 plus applicable taxes, hereby annexed to the minutes to form an integral part of said document entitled Appendix 1.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Burko. Any discussion? Councillor Erdely?
Yeah, so just to explain in a bit more detail, what we've done at this point is made some revisions to the capital projects that was adopted back in December. As you know, of course, at that time, we based some of the work on estimates, and at this point we have more actual numbers. So some of them, for example, The Confederation Annex was one that we weren't 100% if we were going to do at the time, so now we will be doing. So that involves an extra allocation of approximately $1.64 million. So this is going to be done in conjunction with the work at the arena, which was work that had to be done by 2020 as per provincial government regulations. So the work has already begun in the arena, and the Confederation Annex will be cooled as well, and people will be able to skate for approximately 6 months of the year or so.
Yeah, that's what they say.
So approximately 6 months of the year, they'll be able to skate outside. It also involves some extras for the arena project in terms of professionals of approximately $50,000. For the arena itself, $330,000. Plus an additional $170,000. There's also extra funds for the Cavendish synchronization and replacement of some of the traffic lights on Cavendish and Côte Saint-Luc Road, and including intersections as Merton, intersections right in front of City Hall, which will be adopted later tonight as item 12A. So there's some of the renovations to the HVAC, which is also being adopted later this evening for $165,000. Some extra work for the LED streetlights of $48,000, and Kerwin Park professional work of $50,000. All of these, just to mention, are being done through accumulated surplus. As I said earlier, the goal is to try to borrow less money and try to use the surplus we have first, while of course maintaining a small surplus for rainy days. But if we can try to cut down on the debt by using more of the money we have instead of borrowing, it'll save the city and save the taxpayers money in the long run. Thank you.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Passed with Councillor Torgman dissenting. And now we move on to item number D, right? D.
Yep.
Councillor Erdely.
So for this, there's, I believe, two separate, yeah, just making, oh no, 5D. I think it's two separate items for each of this different, okay. All right. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council modifies, it is one bylaw for the two of them. It is one motion. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council modifies the bylaws identified in the annex by replacing the expense or loan amounts with the amounts indicated under the heading New Expense Amount and New Loan Amount in the annex by adding a provision to the effect that to discharge a portion of the expense, the municipality will allocate from a general fund the amount shown under the heading General Fund in the annex, and by modifying the provision concerning the allocation of a grant to indicate the amount shown under the heading Grant in the annex. The attached memorandums of understanding are deemed to be part of the corresponding bylaws indicated in the annex. That Côte Saint-Luc City Council informs the Ministère des Affaires Municipales et des Habitations that the borrowing authority for the bylaws identified in the annex will not be used entirely because of the changes made to the bylaws by this resolution, and where applicable, the quotas paid by the proponents or the amounts received from the taxpayers in a single installment for their capital payment. The amount in these allocations are shown under the heading Proponents and Cash Payments in the annex. That Côte Saint-Luc City Council asked the Ministry to cancel in its registers the residual balance mentioned in the annex. The certified true copy of this resolution be sent to the Ministère des Affaires Municipales et de l'Habitation, and that Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby confirm the total fulfillment of the bylaw objectives and the cancellation of several residual balances.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Burku.
So I'll explain a bit more detail. So this involves two bylaws, or two projects. One was the project for the repairs to the Cavendish underpass, which are complete, and the other was for the purchase of vehicles, heavy vehicles and heavy equipment. So for the first one, we had authorized a loan of $2.3 million. We actually only ended up borrowing, only borrowing part of the amount, and in the end, we didn't need to borrow the full amount, so, and we actually have I believe $252,000 remaining, but the project is done. So by canceling this bylaw, it has the effect of two things. One, it better enables us to use the extra money, and it also tells the ministry that we're not going to borrow more. And it's the analogy I give sometimes is like an individual that has too many credit cards. If you have too many credit cards in your name and you go to try to borrow money, it looks bad on your credit when you get a credit check through Equifax and so on. So the goal of doing this and the following motion, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, is to try to cut down on the amount of money that we can potentially borrow so that if we do need to borrow in the future, it won't hurt the city's credit rating with the ministry. The second one, for heavy vehicle, there's actually just a few dollars left in that account, about $53 left in that one. And again, this is just to signify to the ministry that this project is done and that residual balance of $53 will be transferred to be used for another project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely. So moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? So that one's carried unanimously. Now we move to notices of motion. The first one, bylaw 2531, is deferred because that project has not yet completed, and these are dealing with closing draft loan bylaws, or that one was anyway. So that's deferred. Next one, Councillor Erdely?
Yeah. So the next one, I'm just...
No, he has two to do there, 2532 and 2533.
Yeah, so now we're on, I hereby give notice of motion that bylaw 2532 to be entitled bylaw 2532, repealing bylaw 2478, authorizing a loan of $1,575,000 for various improvements to the exterior portion adjacent to the rear of the City Hall located at 5801 Cavendish Boulevard will be presented at a later meeting. And I hereby table draft bylaw 2532 to be entitled bylaw 2532, repealing bylaw 2478, authorizing a loan of $1,575,000 for various improvements to the exterior portion adjacent to the rear of the City Hall located at 5801 Cavendish Boulevard.
Okay, and those are tabled because we got the money from the tech.
Yeah, so just to explain, this was for the repaving of the parking lot, and as the mayor mentioned, we got the money through a grant from the tech, so we don't need to borrow. So this is signifying to the ministry that we will not need to borrow this money so that it doesn't, again, hurt us in terms of our credit rating or credit status with the Quebec government. And the next one is a similar one. I hereby give notice of motion that bylaw 2533 to be entitled bylaw 2533, repealing bylaw 2479, authorizing a loan of $2,205,000 for water infrastructure repairs and sleeving of water infrastructure will be presented at a later meeting for adoption. And I hereby table draft bylaw 2533 to be entitled bylaw 2533, repealing bylaw 2479, authorizing a loan of $2,205,000 for water infrastructure and sleeving of water infrastructure.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely.
And again, this is similar to the previous one, so the money was given to us through the tech grant, which is from the provincial and federal governments, so we did not have to incur any borrowing, and again, it signifies to the government that we will not be borrowing for this project.
5F. Councillor Erdely.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There's no vote.
I don't think there's a vote for that. For table and draft bylaw, I don't think we vote.
No voting for that.
Next, be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the attached list of disbursements for the period of April 1st, 2019 to April 30th, 2019 for a total amount of $7,767,309.93 in Canadian funds, and that Treasurer Certificate number 19-0082 dated May 6, 2019 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Thank you, Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Burku. Any discussion?
So just to mention briefly that this involves, the only large item is a capital bond repayment, Bond 86. This is one we had discussed last month in the April public meeting for $4.644 million, and we got a pretty good rate of, I forget the exact rate, but 2-point-something% interest rate.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Item G, Councillor Erdely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just pulling up the... Oh, that is true. I have it on paper. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Burke, for reminding me. Be it resolved that Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby expresses its intention to create subcategories of immovables in the non-residential category for the 2020-21 2022 valuation roll, that the City of Côte Saint-Luc informed the assessor responsible for preparing the assessment roll in accordance with Section 71.1 of the Act respecting municipal taxation.
Moved by Councillor Erdely, seconded by Councillor Burku. Any discussion, Councillor Erdely?
So just to explain briefly, right now, as you probably know, for residential taxes, there's different categories. So for example, you have single-family home or condos. You also have multifamily, so 6+, and we also have, let's say, vacant lot as well, which are subcategories of residential. So what we would be doing is similar to that for non-residential, creating new categories. So this is a motion that we need to do to let the City of Montreal's Evaluation Department, which is responsible for the evaluation of all the homes on the island of Montreal, that we are interested in having different categories for non-residential. We'll be talking more about this over the next few weeks, and you'll be hearing more at next month's council meeting.
I just want to add this. This is in preparation of the new evaluation rule, which is going to come into effect. It's going to be deposited in September 2019 and will come into effect as of January 2020. So it's going to be the rule for 2020, 21, and 2022.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried, and now we move to Human Resources, 6A, Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the appointment of Margaret Marac as a synchro swimming assistant coach for a fixed-term contract that was effective February the 28th, 2019 to August 16th, 2019, that the Treasurer's Certificate 19-0080 dated May the 1st, 2019 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expense.
Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Erdely. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And we go to 6B, Councillor Kovac.
Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the hiring of the white-collar auxiliary employees whose names are listed on the document entitled Auxiliary Employees White-Collar Hiring dated May the 1st, 2019, and that said employees' terms of employment will be as per the conditions of the collective agreement, that the Treasurer's Certificate number 19-0081 dated May the 1st, 2019 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses, and this is really for our summer tennis club attendants, lifeguards, a pool coordinator, and a day camp senior counselor.
Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Kajawski. Any other discussion? All in favor? All in favor? No one's opposed. Carried unanimously. We move to item C. Councillor Sabag.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the hiring of Alexandre Caérec-Gagné, Michel Frenette Del Basso, and Pascal Saint-Vincent as on-call dispatchers, white-collar auxiliary position, effective April 2nd, 2019, that the Treasurer Certificate number 19-0079, dated May 1st, 2019, has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expense.
Moved by Councillor Sabag, seconded by Councillor Kajawski. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And we move to item D. Councillor Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I so move that Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the hiring of Maryse Bazare as a Web Communications Officer effective April 15th, 2019. The Treasurer's Certificate number 19-0078 dated May 1st, 2019 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the above described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're very pleased to finally fill this position. We know that Darryl Levine and Regine Benon, who have a pretty heavy workload, have also been handling all web-related activity the last number of years, a very number of years, and we've been looking to hire a web person. So we are now in the process of revamping the website. We will have a brand new enhanced website which will be much more interactive in the weeks or months to come. We'll be very excited to unveil it, and at that point we'll be open to do new features as well, because Mr. Levine and Ms. Benon can now focus their attention on other things. We have someone who can focus her exclusive attention on the website, so we look forward to exciting features to come.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen, seconded by, it was seconded, moved and seconded, all in favor. Carried unanimously, and now we move to item E, Councillor Torchman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry about that. That the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the status change of Ariane Smalley's position as the Children's Coordinator from contract management to permanent management, effective April 1st, 2019.
Yeah, moved by Councillor Torgman, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move to item F. Councillor Torgman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council approves the termination of employment of white-collar auxiliary employee number 3281 effective May 3rd, 2019.
Moved by Councillor Torgman, seconded by Councillor, anyone, Sabag. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And the next item is Councillor Sabag, item number 7, Legal Services. 7A, Councillor Sabag.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm giving notice of motion that bylaw 2398-3 to be entitled bylaw 2398-3 to amend bylaw 2398 to regulate parking and public safety will be presented at a later meeting for adoption. I'm also mentioning that the object and scope of the bylaw 2398-3 to be entitled bylaw 2398-3 to amend bylaw 2398 to regulate parking and public safety, namely, first, the implementation of resident street parking permits, second, the implementation of 2 new communauté zones, and third, the update of Annex A of bylaw 2398 for the placement of signs. I'm also tabling draft bylaw 2398-3 entitled bylaw 2398-3 to amend bylaw 2398 to regulate parking and public safety.
Thank you for that notice of motion and tabling, Councillor Sabag. And now we move on to item 8B, Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to give a notice of motion that bylaw 2530 to be entitled bylaw 2530, creating the fee schedule for culture, sports, and leisure activities for the fall of 2019 and winter of 2020, will be presented at a later meeting for adoption. That Mayor Brownstein mentioned the object and the scope of the bylaw 2530 to be entitled bylaw 2530, creating the fee schedule for culture, sports, and leisure activities for the fall of 2019 and winter of 2020, and that tabling of draft bylaw 2530, entitled bylaw 2530, is creating the fee schedule for culture, sports, and leisure activities for the fall of 2019 and winter of 2020.
Thank you for that notice of motion and tabling, Councillor Kovac. And now we move on to item 8B. We did 8B. Councillor Kovac.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Côte Saint-Luc City Council hereby approves the grant agreement, and that the council hereby requires the MAMH for its authorization to enter into the grant agreement with the Government of Canada, and that said resolution shall be accepted for immediate action. Basically, this will allow us to receive funds for our Canada Day program.
Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Kajavsky. Any other discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And we move to item 9A. Councillor Cohen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it gives me great pleasure to move this resolution. I'm going to do the whereases because it's a very important resolution for our community and growing social media audience we have. Whereas the City of Côte Saint-Luc has been present on social media since April 2009. Whereas with the establishment of the Côte Saint-Luc Ideas Discussion Forum on Facebook, the city posted rules to maintain decorum. Whereas the city would like to officially approve an expanded list of rules and adopt a social media policy that will lay out the role of the Department of Public Affairs and Communications in responding to issues through social media and administering the discussion forum. Whereas the city wishes to adopt the City of Côte Saint-Luc social media policy in order to establish and outline the principles of use for the city staff when engaging and posting on the city's social media accounts or micro-blogging accounts. I so move that Council hereby approves and adopts the City of Côte Saint-Luc social media policy, annexed hereto, form an integral part thereof.
Thank you, Councillor Cohen, seconded by Councillor Burku. Any further discussion?
First,
Councillor Cohen.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. First of all, I must thank and commend Darrell Levine once again. This was all his work. A lot of time went into this. There's been a lot of comments. I want to thank members of council who weighed in and provided their feedback to help flesh this out. We are going to make sure that the policy is posted on our website, hopefully as early as tomorrow, so people can read it. We'll put a link on our Facebook pages. We have more than one Facebook page. We have the general Côte Saint-Luc page, and we have the CSL Ideas page. We certainly encourage people who live in the community who are on Facebook, who are not on the page, to become a member. Very, very interesting. It does a lot of things. Yes, we're looking for ideas from the community, but the other night when there was a power failure, if you went on to Côte Saint-Luc Ideas, right away there was help. People were be able to exchange with each other what street was out and who was getting information from hydro. So it does a lot of good things, and this policy will hopefully ensure that people use it properly and don't abuse the privileges. As Darrell noted, in terms of what we want it to do, we want to share smart ideas that people come across. We want people to tell us about ways we can improve our services. We want to be nice to everyone here on this page, and we want people to use their real name in their Facebook profile. What we don't want is we do not want any offensive or violent language. We do not use hateful or discriminatory comments regarding race, ethnicity, religion, gender, disability, sexual orientation, or political beliefs. No attacks on specific groups or any comments meant to harass, threaten, or abuse an individual, and do not use the space to advertise a business. That's not what it's for. And I won't go through the rules in detail, but some of the things that we're going to talk about, and people can read them again on the website, is off-topic posts, where we're looking for people not to post things that have nothing to do with Côte Saint-Luc. We do not want to get into municipal politics and campaigns, provincial or federal politics and campaigns, no insults, no defamation, do not be unnecessarily antagonistic, no harassment, no comments about named or identifiable employees of the city, no threats, no obscenities, no trolling, no spam, no advertising, solicitation, or self-promotion, no one-word post or animated GIFs. And again, we mentioned use your real names. So thank you again, Darrell. Thank you to council, and thank you to other staff who contributed to this.
Well, thank you, Councillor Cohn, for that thorough report. As we made a promise, this council is committed to informing the public, and social media is one way to do so. We want it to be a positive experience for everybody. Everybody should feel comfortable and welcome on ideas. They should not feel intimidated in any way. They should feel free to express their ideas and their opinions in a respectful manner, and that's the reason. And we want to be a model of a social media site and how it's supposed to run in order to provide positive information to a council, which can include suggestions and critiques on the way we operate in order that we can improve the way we operate, and that's what it's there for. So now that it's moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And we move on to item 10A, Councillor Benizri.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Est résolu que le conseil de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc octroie par la présente un contrat pour le contrôle du nerprin et la restauration de la végétation dans le boisé Ashkelon pour l'année 2019, pour un montant n'excédant pas $94 799 et 80 cents plus les taxes applicables. Que le certificat du trésorier numéro 19-0084 a été émis le 9 mai 2019 pour attester de la disponibilité des fonds nécessaires pour couvrir les dépenses décrites ci-dessus. Que la conseillère générale de la ville soit par les présentes autorisée à signer le contrat susmentionné au nom de la ville.
Proposé pour le conseiller Benizri, appuyé par le conseiller Kajarski? Or no? Conseiller Cohen. Conseiller Cohen. Okay. So, est-ce qu'il y a des discussions?
Non, c'est pour l'entretien.
Okay, proposé, appuyé.
I would like to say something, Mr. Mayor, when I have a moment, please.
Go ahead. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I mean, I think we continually must thank our staff for the excellent work they do on these projects. Beatrice Newman and her staff have done a terrific job on this very difficult dossier and kept us informed. We kept the residents informed. There were 3 phases right now. Phase 1 included the 3 green spaces named Ashkelon Woodlands, Per Elliott Trudeau Park, and Nathan Schuster Park. We managed to fell all the trees in all 3 areas. Since the city only received authorization in March 2018, we could not proceed with Phase 1. That was the felling of the trees in 2018 due to the thaw season when the grounds were too soft. Therefore, the felling of Ashkelon was performed this past February. Public Works completed the felling of approximately 300 trees. Very, very sad to see this happen, but we had no choice. They were dead and they were diseased. The other 2 areas were completed between 2017 and 2019, approximately 200 trees in total. Phase 2 included the control of invasive plants, buckthorn. The Ashkelon Woodlands had the most drastic invasion of these plants. Ashkelon Woodlands, of course, is right here behind the library. So they had the most drastic invasion of these plants out of the 3 green spaces, and therefore they required that we treated this area first. Also, the area will be quite barren, and we'd like to renaturalize it and focus on there first. And finally, Phase 3, after the control of these plants, the removal, it's necessary, according to the environmental Article 22 of de loi sur la qualité de l'environnement et conformément aux dispositions transitaires à la loi concernant la conservation des milieux humides et hydriques, to revegetate the space as soon as possible, close to the period of removal. Originally, the city was given a deadline of June 30th, 2019, but we're now requesting a modification of the certificate for an extension. So again, I know a lot of people are coming to the library. They're seeing that very sad sight. But again, we had no choice. We did have meetings with the local residents on 2 occasions to explain it to them. And as I noted, some people asked me why the fence is still up. We're hoping the work will be finished, by the end of the summer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to item 10B. Councillor Benizri.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Est résolu que le conseil municipal de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc, conseil, par la présente octroie un contrat à les industries Permo incorporées pour l'achat et l'installation d'une structure galvanisée avec recouvrement en toile de polyéthylène conformément aux conditions de l'appel d'offres public C-14-19 pour la somme de 218 387 $ plus les taxes applicables. Que le certificat du trésorier numéro 19-0083 a été émis le 9 mai 2019 par le trésorier de la ville attestant la disponibilité des fonds pour couvrir les dépenses décrites.
Thank you, Councillor Ministry. Seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion?
No.
This is for a structure to protect the trucks at Public Works. It came in under budget at $218,000. So with taxes, it is still under the budget as expected, which is good news. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried with Councillor Torgman dissenting for issues he's already previously mentioned. And now we move on to... It was seconded by Councillor Kovac. Okay. And now we move on to item 11. 11A, Councillor Burku.
All right. Whereas Bill 108 Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas Bill 108, an act to facilitate oversight of public bodies, contracts, and to establish the Autorité des marchés publics was adopted on December 1st, 2017, whereas following this adoption in accordance with Section 573.3.1.3 of the Cities and Towns Act, a city must establish a procedure for the receipt and examination of complaints made in connection with the awarding of a contract through a public tender or by mutual agreement with a supplier wherein the expenditure is equal to or greater than the minimum threshold for public bidding. Whereas the city wishes to adopt the complaint examination procedure for the city of Côte Saint-Luc in order to create comprehensive guidelines for the receipt and examination of complaints made in the context of the awarding of such contract. Oh, sorry. Be it resolved that Council hereby approves and adopts the complaint examination procedure for the city of Côte Saint-Luc annexed hereto to form an integral part hereof.
Thank you, Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Erdely. Any discussion on our?
Okay, so basically this is a complaint examination procedure which is available to those persons or companies that bid on our tenders, on our public tenders, and if they feel that there has been some kind of violation of the rules of engagement for public tenders, they have a right to file a complaint. The complaint comes to the City of Côte Saint-Luc to a designated official. It's going to be our city manager, and that official will look at the complaint, decide if, in a very short delay, because everything is very time sensitive, will decide if there is any validity to that complaint and or, you know, deal with it accordingly. And after that, any further proceedings can be taken with the marché des autorités publiques or something like that. But it's a process that we're putting in place in order to give our those companies that that tender with the city some kind of a procedure to file their complaints. Yeah, correct.
So moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried with Councillor Burku and Councillor Erdely seconding it. Carried unanimously. And now we move on to urban development.
Oh, we're there.
12A.
Oh, great.
Councillor Kajowski.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the City Council hereby awards a contract for contractor services of synchronization of traffic lights on Cavendish Boulevard in accordance with the terms of tender number C-04-18-19C1 to the lowest conforming bidder, namely Système Urbain Inc., for a total amount of $907,913 plus applicable taxes. Am I reading the? No, that $77,770 of the described expenses shall be financed from the loan bylaw 2500 and $523,425 shall be financed from the loan bylaw 2523, respectively, previously approved by the MAMH. That $352,000 of the described expenses shall be covered from the cumulative surplus. That Treasurer's Certificate number TC-19-0087 dated May 9th, 2019 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Kajowski, seconded by Councillor Kovac. Any discussion?
Well, speaks for itself. It's the
Synchronization of the traffic lights on Cavendish.
and replacement of obsolete equipment and other equipment that's needing to be replaced.
So
And
let's
the
hope that this is
replacement of the
Including?
4 streetlights at the corner of Merton and Cavendish,
Stephen wants to say.
Councillor Erdely.
And if I can-
amongst others.
And if I can add, it's also a replacement of the damaged traffic light at the corner of Côte Saint-Luc Road and Sunnybrook.
Pole, downed pole.
The down pole,
Down
yes.
pole,
Sorry,
missing pole.
the one that's been replaced temporarily, but it'll be a permanent replacement for the center east, the east median.
As well.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Merton.
Anyone opposed?
All of Merton.
Carried unanimously. And now we move on to item
Senator.
12B. Councillor Torchman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the City of Côte Saint-Luc Council hereby awards a professional services contract to GBI, the lowest bidder under the law, for a total amount of $74,814.00 plus applicable taxes, that the described expenses shall be financed from the loan bylaw 2500, previously approved by the Ministère des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation. That the Treasurer Certificate number TC-19-0086 dated May 9th, 2019 has been issued by the City Treasurer attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Torchman, seconded by Councillor Burku.
Yes,
It's about the
definitely.
roundabouts.
Yeah.
Moved and seconded. All, any discussion?
Yes. So this is a very exciting project. I'm quite happy that we're moving forward with the study. We're looking to install roundabouts in the city, and this will be a part of studying that. The 2 intersections we're looking at are Haywood and Cavendish, as well as Einstein and Kildare. The traffic lights at Kellett and Kildare will be evaluated as well, as will the Westminster Westover There's presently flashing traffic lights there. It'll be evaluated for stop signs or other. But the portion allocated for the roundabouts is, it'll be the first roundabouts in Côte Saint-Luc if the study dictates that it's the best option. So.
Right, thank you, yeah, Councillor Torchman. As he said, we're not necessarily going to have roundabouts, maybe. I mean, this is something that works in certain areas. It might be good, and these are not big roundabouts we're looking at. There's small roundabouts in these two intersections that might improve the flow of traffic. We're studying it, we're having professionals study it, and if it makes sense that we can improve our flow of traffic in a safe way, then we'll decide accordingly. Councillor Kovac.
I'll be voting against this. I think it's far too much money to spend on a study for a roundabout, when in my personal opinion, the two particular intersections, if there is a problem, a four-way red light would stop the traffic so that people could cross. I think this is a lot of money to spend for a study, but that's my opinion.
Any other discussion?
Well, yeah.
Yes, Councillor Burku?
I'd like to respond to that. So first of all, it's not just a study for those two intersections. There's also the traffic lights at Kellard and Kildare, and also the traffic lights at Westminster and Westover. And this actually came in at much lower than our estimated budget. So I think it's much lower. So I think that, you know, we're making progress, and I'm very happy with the work of the Traffic Committee, because we're actually making progress on finding solutions for pedestrian safety and moving traffic in a more fluid fashion. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Moved and seconded? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried with Councillor Kovac dissenting, and now we move on to item 12C. Councillor Burku. It's you again. 12C, HVAC. Did you find it?
Where the city of Côte Saint-Luc issued a public call for I don't really want to. Just
What?
here. Someone
Who wants to do it? Councillor Kovac, go ahead.
Be it resolved that the city hereby approves the change order for additional works under Project C-13-17-18C for contractor services related to energy efficiency measures and HVAC renovation at the City Hall and Library, and authorizes payment of an amount not to exceed $180,743.48 plus applicable taxes to Le Groupe Centco. And that the city hereby approves the payment for the additional services required to complete the project as follows. That Groupe Gesfor Poirier Pinchin, Inc., for a total amount of $32,741.40 plus applicable taxes, to Carmichael Limited for a total amount of $9,230 plus applicable taxes, and that described expenses shall be financed from the cumulative surplus, and that the city treasurer has issued a treasurer certificate TC 19-0085 on May the 7th, 2019, attesting to the availability of funds to cover the described expenses.
Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Kajavsky. Any discussion? Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move into more urban planning. Now it's really your turn.
Okay, so, do you want to lower, the screen is lowered?
Yeah.
So we are now at 5740 smart. For some reason I can't see. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to use
Here.
Hard copies? I have all the hard copies. Here you go. Take this one to start. I'll pass them on as we go.
5740 smart. Be it resolved that the site planning and architectural Be it resolved that the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program received March 26, 2019, showing the demolition and the reconstruction of a single-family detached dwelling on Lot 105-2555 at 5740 Smart, and prepared by Mr. M. Gussman, architect, for the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of March 28, 2019, be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kajavsky.
So this is the replacement project for the demolition that was voted on at the beginning of this evening. And as you can see, it's a very nice project, two-story property that's going to improve the beauty of the street, I think, in Councillor Kujawski's district.
So moved and seconded, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Councillor Cohen, you're in favor, right? Okay. Okay, carried unanimously, and then we move on to item B. Councillor Burku, B, I'll just
Great, thank you. So, this item deals with property situated at 5825 Tommy Douglas. I'll do it in French. Que le plan d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale reçu le 12 février 2018, montrant des modifications à la façade avant d'une habitation unifamiliale isolée sur le lot 105-3709 au 5825 Tommy Douglas est préparé par Atelier URA Architecte pour la réunion du comité consultatif d'urbanisme du 28 mars 2019, soit approuvé conformément aux dispositions du chapitre 14 du règlement 2217 de la ville de Côte Saint-Luc. So I'm wondering if there isn't an error in the French. It should probably say February 2019, as it does in the English for the preparation of the plan. Okay?
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion on it?
Okay, so basically, this is just a approval of a modification to the front facade of an existing detached single-family dwelling, and it's on Tommy Douglas, so it's very well integrated into the streetscape.
So moved and seconded, all in favor? Carried unanimously, and we move to the next item. Here we go. Number C, Mather.
Okay, so this also is a very nice project. Be it resolved that the Site Planning and Architectural Integration Program received March 25, 2019, showing the existing one-story single-family detached dwelling and the addition of a two-story single-family dwelling at the back of the existing dwelling on lot 105-3709 at 105-3709. Okay, that's repeated. And prepared by Misley Design.
No, it's Missile. It's a typo.
Missile? Okay.
M-I-S-S-Y-L.
Okay, Missile Design, Architect, for the Planning Advisory Committee, thank you. Meeting of March 28, 2019, be approved according to the provisions of Chapter 14 of Bylaw 2217 of the City of Côte Saint-Luc. So here what we're doing, seconded by?
It is seconded by, this one is Mather, seconded by Councillor Mather Kujawski.
Kujawski. Okay, so this is the approval of an elevation showing modifications to the existing one-story single-family detached dwelling and the addition of a two-story single detached dwelling, not on the side like a normal semi-detached, like your average semi-detached is two houses that are attached side by side. Here it's attached to the back of the existing property because it's on a corner lot. So one of the facades is on the corner of Palmer, and the other one is on Mather. So the existing property is going to be with an address on Palmer. All right?
So moved and seconded. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And now we move on to minor exemptions.
What's wrong?
It's fine, it's fine. Minor exemptions 13.2A, and here you go.
Thank you. All right. So these are minor exemptions in the classic meaning of the words. In accordance with the provisions of bylaw G18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located 5578 Borden, lot 15-60676, being is hereby approved, the whole is more amply delineated hereunder. The request is in order to allow for an existing detached single-family dwelling built in 1954 under permit number 56 to be located at 6.3 feet from the southeast side land line instead of the minimum required side setback of 6.5 feet. The whole notwithstanding the provisions of zoning bylaw 2217, Annex B, Zone RU-2. So this is a minor adjustment. Well, we're giving an allowance of 0.2 2 feet.
0.2 feet.
Which is...
Not bad.
How many inches? It's nothing. Okay. No, it's not 2 feet. It's 0.2 feet. All right.
What can it be? Anyway.
The adjustment is very minor.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kovac. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And now we move to item B, Councillor Burku.
Because we
And here you
wonder
go. Here you go.
if the surveyors in 1954 had the same
Technology.
the same finely tuned measuring equipment that we have today. And that's why we get all these minor exemptions. Okay, so this is for 5720 McMurray. Conformément aux dispositions du règlement J18-005, qu'une demande de dérogation mineure concernant une propriété localisée au 5720 McMurray, lot 105-2896, soit est présente approuvée, le tout tel que plus amplement décrit ci-dessus. La demande vise à permettre pour une habitation unifamiliale jumelée existante d'avoir un balcon en bois arrière construit en 2018 avec le permis numéro 17706 d'être localisé à 2,23 mètres de la ligne de terrain du côté sud-ouest au lieu de la distance minimum requise de 3,05 mètres. Une terrasse en bois construite en 2018 avec le permis numéro 170706 d'être localisée à 1,82 mètres de la ligne de terrain du côté nord-ouest au lieu de la distance minimum requise de 1,98 mètres. Et troisièmement, la superficie de sa cour arrière couverte à 53% par la combinaison d'un balcon et d'une terrasse au lieu du maximum requis de 50% de couverture par ces structures de la superficie de la cour arrière du bâtiment principal.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kajewski. I believe it's McMurray.
Yeah. So
Any discussion?
basically, this is to allow the rear yard to be covered with a balcony and a deck at 53% instead of 50%, and therefore we deem it to be a minor exemption.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried with Councillor Kovac dissenting, and now we move to item C. Councillor Burku, item C, here you go.
Okay. Item C. This is SMART, again. Oh, this is for the minor exemption for SMART. Okay. So, in accordance with the provisions of bylaw G 18-0005, the request for a minor exemption regarding the property located at 5740 Smart Bean is hereby approved. The whole is more amply delineated hereunder. The request is in order to allow the construction of a proposed two-story single-family detached dwelling without having to provide a two-car garage, one-car garage existing when the dwelling area is more than 167.22 square meters or 1,800 square feet, excluding the area of the garage and the basement floor. The proposed height of the house to be 26 feet 5 inches for a very small portion of the roof instead of the required maximum height of 25 feet above the city sidewalk level. So it'll be 1 foot 5 inches above the maximum height. The whole in accordance with provisions of zoning bylaw 2217, Article 7-2-1A, and Article 14-11-4.
Moved by Councillor Burku, seconded by Councillor Kajewski.
So this is to allow two basically minor exemptions. One is for the single-car garage because habitually when we are renovating or allowing a renovation or reconstruction of an existing property with a one-car garage on the same footprint as is in this case, then we're open to giving the minor exemption for a one-car garage because the footprint of the property is not that large, so one-car garage would suffice. And then the other one is to allow for the tip of the roof to be 1 foot 5 inches above the city sidewalk and more than the maximum height, which is hardly visible from the street.
So moved and seconded by Councillor Kajewski. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We move to stance number 14 on the agglomeration.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the council takes the following stance in view of any agglomeration council meetings to be held in June 2019 as follows: to authorize the mayor or his duly authorized replacement to make any decisions he deems necessary and in the best interest of the city of Côte Saint-Luc and its residents regarding the items on the agenda of the agglomeration council meetings to be held June 2019 based on the information to be presented during those meetings.
Moved by Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Sabag. Any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. And we move to item 15, other business. I'd just like to say that there was a special event tonight that I could not attend. It was at the TBDJ Synagogue. Former rabbi, great rabbi, Chaim Steinmetz had the event. I was invited, and when I told Dr. Mishkin, who was one of the organizers, I couldn't attend, he said, would your wonderful and terrific political wife go on your behalf? So thank you for that. I want to hear about it. I know it was about anti-Semitism, discrimination. So I look... Oh. Okay, I'm looking forward to hearing about that, and thank you for attending. Second question period.
I know this is an exercise in futility, but I'll give it a shot anyway. So thanks to David Torchman, they did put up that sign, the crosswalk sign, you know, from La Marquise to the library. However, what they did was, you know, the pictorial of the man crossing the street, they took that one from the old sign and put it on the new sign. Now, when the light is, nobody knows that there's a button to push that crosses the street because there's no signage before the crosswalk to indicate, push the button. During the day, that light that's supposed to be flashing on top, when the sun is shining, you can't see the light flashing. And that pictorial was supposed to be the same one they have on Van Horn, or not Van Horn, whatever the street is called closer to here. I think it's in Hampstead or
Fleet,
maybe Côte Saint-Luc, where the picture of the man crossing the street has lights. And the lights are on like all the time that there's a crosswalk there.
I'm not catching all of this, but I don't know if you are, Councillor Torchman.
My 3 minutes aren't up.
No, I'm just not catching the question, so I
finish?
hope Councillor Torchman is. Go ahead, because I'm not catching this.
Okay, so
It's
whoever
not clear. So try to be clear and ask me the question, because I'm not catching it. I understand there's a problem with the crosswalk. There's not clear signage. What's the question?
The question is, why doesn't that man crossing the street have a light on him? That's what's supposed to be. They took it from the old sign that didn't have lights and put it on the new sign.
Okay.
And that's the, however, and then there's another problem with lighting. I spoke to Councillor Kuchowski after the April the 11th meeting about 2 lights being lit there. The next day, on the day after the meeting, the 2 lights were out as well. So then there were no lights whatsoever for most of April up until just a week ago, where all the lights went on. Now, those lights are on 24/7.
Right.
Why don't they go off in the day?
No, I have an answer to that. I do have an answer to that question. That one I have an answer to. The repair, we're waiting for the mechanism that's needed in order to repair, but in the meantime, they need to be on 24/7 or they're not on at all, because we're waiting for, I forget the name of the piece that's missing, but it's supposed to be arriving, they discussed it today, the next week? In the next week? In the next couple of weeks, that piece that's missing will come, but in the meantime, for safety, we're keeping the lights on 24/7 rather than having darkness at night, but that will be repaired within 2 weeks. And with respect to the other lighting signage, I'd ask the traffic committee to follow up on the issue of lighting that sign.
It doesn't work.
And Councillor Cohen would like to respond.
I also want to
Yeah, I am aware of that, and it's been raised with engineering. Their hands are a little bit full, but yes, it was a good step in the right direction for them to implement that mechanism, but we think they can do better, and I know Councillor Torchman's committee is going to take a fresh look at it. So I've been there myself. I've pressed the button. I've stood there to see if cars are slowing down. And again, I think it was a good first measure, but I hope we can do better. As well, when the construction is over in the equinox next year, I'm hoping we can return to some other measures, maybe some more speed humps or speed bumps on the area to slow down traffic at that corner.
But this has been
No, it's not a back and forth. Councillor Burke?
Yeah, so I'm really happy you brought this up. I really am.
I'm glad.
Because I think that if we're serious, and I know all the council is serious about pedestrian safety and, you know, slowing down traffic. And I think that we just have to, insist that if we're going to install any pedestrian crossings, they have to be state-of-the-art and and operating exactly the way they are supposed to. And in my opinion, the road should be narrowed wherever there's a pedestrian crossing. That's the only way to slow down traffic. Now, if it's not possible there because there's an S-curve,
Right, you can't.
I understand that, but otherwise, I think this is a really important discussion, probably not to have at 10 o'clock at night, but I think it's an important discussion that we as a council, if we're going to install equipment to slow down to ensure pedestrian safety, it has to be state-of-the-art.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Burku. Your question has been asked and answered.
Yeah, I just want to continue with.
No, there's no continuing.
Councillor
There's no
Coles.
continuing. We're way over the 3 minutes. There's no continuing.
Nobody's timing me.
It doesn't
Just a
matter.
minute, but
No, there's
part
no
of the 3 minutes
continuing.
was taken up by you.
It doesn't work like that.
I need all
That's
3
it.
minutes.
Thank you very much.
Anyway, forget it.
Thank you. Okay, so, yes, thank you.
More a comment than a question, because I was intrigued by what Councillor Burku was talking about, the minor exemption and the number of garage spaces that a house requires depending on the size of the house. And I'm just questioning whether in this day and age when we talk about the environment and public transit and, you know, trying to cut down on carbon emissions, if we should really be looking at these kind of bylaws again. Just because a person has a larger home doesn't necessarily mean they want 2 cars anymore. Just an observation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, if there's no further questions, I'll call for adjournment. Go ahead, Mr. Marvin Zilber.
Thank you, Councillor, everybody. I just wanted to ask to the follow-up as to the situation about Norwalk. We've been engaging back and forth as the garbage. I don't know if I should take a minute to explain, or you could do that, if you're all aware of it. Basically, what's been happening is that over the past 10 years, there's been numerous dumping of furniture, sinks, garbage, toilets, whatever like that, contaminating on Norwalk Street. I've identified it on numerous times to previous councils and stuff like that. It's getting worse and worse every year. We were just having a whole bunch of notices going back and forth. What has happened is that I've taken the lead to try and identify what are some of the arrears that has gone into that situation. I pointed out that I think that there could be an augmentation of a new fine, maybe putting up the changing of a new posting because there are signage or whatever like that. So I just wanted to find out if you've given thought to it.
Staff has been in communication with you, correct? You have a direct communication by email with staff on the issue, because I created an email loop. I know inspectors have been there. The last time that you identified it was it was a heavy bulk day, and the next day the garbage was taken away because it was for big, I forget what you call that day? Bulky waste day.
Right.
So it was taken away, but you do have direct communication with yourself, Jonathan Schechter?
Right.
And he went, in fact, I communicated with him today to say what's the story. And he basically said that what he's seen thus far is that the bulky waste has been out at the times that is permitted as per our bylaw. Having said that, I've asked him to be particularly vigilant and there is what's called special attention to see if any bulky waste is going out outside of the hours permitted by our bylaw, and if so, immediately fine.
But I encourage you to stay in communication directly with Co-City Manager Jonathan Schechter, should you see anything, and we'll be monitoring the area.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Okay, so if there's no further questions, I move for adjournment. Councillor Kovac, seconded by Councillor Sabag. All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.